Hello and welcome to our group presentation. Throughout this presentation, we will be taking you through various workplaces from the engineering and construction industry. In each workplace, we will be highlighting some common processes and will be investigating how health and safety legislation applies to each workplace. Moreover, we will be investigating how safety audits are implemented and will also be describing the role of the HSE Inspectorate in relation to our chosen environments. The plastering workshop is a practical working environment located above the brickwork area, where students are taught the skills required to become a competent plasterer. The workshop consists of multiple bays with makeshift walls where the students can practice their skills. Within the plastering workshop, we focused on 4 common processes and investigated what health and safety procedures were in place for each process. The processes we explored were as follows. The raw materials used to make the plaster are delivered into the workshop via the loading bay, which is located in the brickwork area. The materials are then transported and lifted up to the mezzanine level of the plastering area by forklift truck. One of the rules in the workshop is that only trained personnel with up-to-date certification are allowed to operate the forklift truck, and that they must be accompanied by a lookout at all times. The forklift truck is subjected to annual inspections as required by the Lifting Operations and Lifting Equipment Regulations, LOLA. This inspection is essentially an MOT to ensure that the forklift truck is safe and fit for use. The raw materials are transported to the working bays where the students combine them to make the plaster. The students mix the plaster using 110 volt AC electric mixing drills. Before using the mixing drills, the students are given a demonstration of how to use the drills safely to ensure that they do not injure themselves or other people. All mixing drills, along with any other electric equipment in the workshop, are subjected to portable appliance testing annually to ensure that they are fit for use. All equipment in the workshop is 110 volt AC operated or less in the interest of safety. There is no specific regulation stating that 110 volt AC electrical equipment should be used, but it is considered as good practice throughout the construction industry. When the students are working with the plaster, they use a variety of hand tools, for example, trowels and hawks. As with all equipment used in the workshop, the students are given a demonstration of how to use the tools correctly and safely. The hand tools are inspected on a weekly basis to ensure that they are fit for purpose. After the students have finished with the equipment, it is cleaned in the designated sinks. As the floor in the area can become wet, signage has been put in place to warn people of the possible slip hazards. Slips, trips and falls make up a large percentage of minor workplace injuries, and so it is important that this signage is present. Whilst in the plastering workshop, students must wear safety boots at all times. When carrying out specific tasks, they are required to wear additional PPE for the duration of that task, as required by site risk assessments and in accordance with the Personal Protective Equipment at Work Regulations 1992. Within the plastering workshop, a weekly walk-through inspection is carried out by the workshop technician. It is the technician's responsibility to go through the items on the walk-through checklist. This walk-through comprises of the inspection of equipment, verification of safety procedures, and other checks relating to health and safety. If during the inspection any items are found to be unsafe, then it is the technician's responsibility to ensure that the immediate danger is eradicated, for example by removing a piece of unsafe equipment, and that any items deemed to be unsafe are recorded on the inspection checklist and reported to the college management team for further investigation. As well as the weekly walkthrough inspection, an annual health and safety audit is carried out on the plastering workshop by the workshop technician along with a member of the college management team. This audit is a complete review of the health and safety processes and procedures in the workshop. Any health and safety issues which are highlighted during this audit are discussed, and suitable measures are agreed to address these issues. Some codes of practice which could be implemented into the workshop to enhance safety are as follows.
The engineering workshop includes an extensive range of facilities for bench, hand fitting and the use of machine tools, welding and electrical maintenance. Students are taught how to use relevant machinery and apply it to projects they will be working on over the academic year. Within the engineering workshop, we focused on 3 common processes and investigated what health and safety legislations were in place for each process. There are many different activities that happen within the engineering workshop. Many of these activities involve the use of hand tools, such as bench vices, files, hacksaws, centre punches and scribers. Hand tools in the engineering workshop are subject to checks before use by a person. As the hand tools are supplied by the Reading College, they are subject to Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulations 1998. This puts responsibility on the college to ensure all tools are maintained and are safe to use. For certain tasks in the engineering workshop, the use of machinery is necessary. Students have access to a lathe, and with this includes the need to use drill bits, lathe cutting pieces, lathe chucks, coolant and a swarf tray. For all machinery used, students are given a demonstration on how to use them safely. After the demonstration, students are deemed safe to use the equipment. This means they do not have to be supervised directly. The lathe is subject to weekly inspection to confirm its suitability and safety. Students are aware that before each use of the lathe or any other equipment, that they also must carry out a safety check. Similar to the safety requirements of a lathe is the milling machine. This is another machine that students are able to use in the engineering workshop, and again there are several parts to it such as the swarf tray, machine vise, cleaning brushes and various other cutting and milling bits. The same safety checks are carried out on the milling machine as on the lathe, and students again require demonstration before being deemed competent to use it. A student can only be deemed competent to use such machines by a senior competent person, which at the Reading College is the technician running the workshop. The engineering workshop requires the use of personal protective equipment, PPE. The Reading College requires students to wear overalls, lab coats and safety boots whilst working. Whilst lab coats are provided, personal safety boots are expected to be brought in with each student. There are many processes occurring in the engineering workshop, and each task requires the different use of PPE. The lathe and the milling machine, for example, requires the use of goggles. As the goggles are required, the Reading College provide them. Certain operations require students not to use PPE, like the lathe. Due to how the lathe works, it is subject to a no gloves rule. All PPE is checked weekly and before use to ensure it is in good working order.
Some codes of practice which could be implemented into the workshop to enhance safety are as follows.
Next is the plumbing workshop. The aim of the plumbing workshop is to teach students how to create water and gas systems correctly and safely. They are taught how to safely use hand tools, machinery and chemical substances to create a plumbing system. Within the plumbing workshop, we focused on 3 common processes and investigated what health and safety procedures were in place for each process. Hygiene is key in any area of work. Like the plastering and the brickwork workshops, there is a hand washing station in the plumbing workshop. Within this workshop, there is a lot of pipe work, and these pipes are usually covered with a fair amount of dirt, even if they look fairly clean. There is a process, which will be discussed in a moment, that requires the need of certain substances. As you can see, there is a risk that dirt and chemical substances can get onto the hands of students. The risk is greatly reduced by keeping good hygiene when in and when leaving the workshop. The hand washing station has 4 parts: a washing part, a cleansing and moisturising part, and a protection part. There is the ability to wash any dirt or harmful substances off, cleanse the skin, and then apply a barrier cream. The plumbing workshop uses a great deal of pipe work. The chemical substances such as cutting grease are used to cut and mould the pipes, and glue is used for connecting pipes together. These substances can get onto the hands of students and, if left, could damage the skin or even enter the body orally through hand to mouth whilst eating or smoking. To minimise the risk of chemicals getting accidentally spilled or left in the wrong place, there is a designated shelf for these COSH substances. COSH is a control of substances hazardous to health. These regulations state that these products must be stored in a controlled way and warning signs must be displayed to warn of the dangers. Cutting pipe work requires the use of a mixture of hand tools and COSH substances. Hand tools are subject to the Workplace, Health, Safety and Welfare Regulation 1992. This legislation requires that a workspace is kept clean and tidy. The plumbing workshop, and for that matter all 4 workshops, have a storage space for all tools. The plumbing workshop specifically has walls with hooks and labels to store tools such as pipe, wrenches and hacksaws. There is a small amount of machinery in the plumbing workshop, and one of these machines is the pillar drill. As in the other workshops, to be able to use the machinery, students must be given a demonstration and deemed competent to use them without direct supervision. The pillar drill requires the use of drill bits, chuck keys, coolant and a swarf shield. To protect from the hazards associated with the pillar drill, PPE must be worn. The workshop has a requirement for overalls and safety boots at all times, but an additional need for goggles when using the pillar drill. In this workshop, there is a walkthrough checklist that the technician carries out on a weekly basis to confirm that all health and safety requirements are adhered to. This includes checking PPE for defects, making sure COSH substances are in a controlled area, and confirming that the hygiene station is stocked.
Some codes of practice which could be implemented into the workshop to enhance safety are as follows. This is an example of a safety audit which we have put together at Reading College. The audit is in the form of a checklist which covers a variety of areas including general safety, fire safety, tools and equipment, PPE, emergency procedures and safe systems of working. It is recommended that this audit is implemented on a monthly basis in each engineering workshop. It is also recommended that this audit is carried out as and when the processes in each workshop change.
The role of the HSC Inspectorate is to visit workplaces, sometimes without notice, to examine the procedures in place for carrying out risk assessments and controlling work-related risks.
During the visit to the workplace, the Health and Safety Executive, the HSE Inspectorate, will speak to a range of staff in all areas of the workplace, taking photos where appropriate and looking over the health and safety arrangements that are in place, after which they can serve improvement notices where appropriate.
Once the Inspectorate has completed their assessment, they will provide feedback to the employer's safety representative and will advise on areas of improvement if necessary. If the Inspectorate highlights any issues which pose an immediate danger to people, they have the power to serve an improvement notice to the organisation.
In severe circumstances, they also have the power to stop work immediately for as long as it is necessary in order for the danger to be eradicated.